Welcome to Narc Cut channel. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. You are in a safe space here. This is a place to reflect, to understand, and to feel seen. Today, we're going to step quietly into a world that many people live in but rarely talk about, the world of a narcissistic family system. A place where love feels conditional, where silence can feel heavier than words, and where the simple act of being yourself can sometimes feel impossible. Maybe you've lived in a family like this, maybe you still do. Or maybe you're just curious why these dynamics are so difficult, so confusing, and so painful to untangle. Wherever you are not alone. In this video, we'll walk through what daily life feels like inside a narcissist family. We'll hear the story of someone who managed to step away. We'll explore the psychology behind these patterns. And finally, we'll contrast the differences between a healthy family and one dominated by narcissism. As you listen, remember, this isn't about judgment, and it isn't about blame. It's about understanding and gently shining light into the places that may have felt dark for too long. So let's begin by stepping into the rhythm of daily life in a narcissistic household. Imagine waking up in a home where the atmosphere is never quite predictable. The walls might look ordinary. The house might even appear warm and inviting from the outside, but inside, the air feels different. There's a weight to it, a quiet tension that hums beneath every interaction. In a narcissistic family, the day often begins not with peace, but with performance. Every member knows, whether spoken or unspoken, that their role is to keep the narcissistic parent or figure satisfied. For some, this means being the golden child, the one who must shine, excel, and reflect the parent's image of success. For others, it means being the scapegoat, the one blamed for the family's problems, carrying the frustration and anger no one else is allowed to show. Breakfast might not just be breakfast, it could be a stage for competition. Who looks the most prepared? Who speaks the most eloquently? Who makes the parent proud? And sometimes, who stays silent to avoid attention altogether? Even the smallest choices, what you wear, how you sit, the words you choose, can feel like tests you don't remember signing up for. Love, in this environment, is rarely unconditional. Affection is given when you perform well, when you reflect the parent's ideal image. But when you fall short, or simply when the narcissistic parent is displeased, you might feel that warmth vanish. The sudden withdrawal of approval can feel like ice in the room, leaving you scrambling to figure out what you did wrong. This creates a constant cycle of drama, competition, and conditional love. Siblings may find themselves rivals instead of allies, each fighting for crumbs of validation. One day you might be praised for being the good one, and the next you might be punished for not doing enough. The ground beneath you is always shifting. Even in quiet moments, there's rarely true rest. Silence is not peace, it's the calm before the next storm. Every family member learns to read the narcissist's moods like weather patterns, scanning for the slightest sign of trouble. And so, daily life becomes less about living and more about surviving, trying to stay invisible or trying to shine brighter than the others, but never truly being free to simply exist as yourself. This is the hidden reality of a narcissistic family. The outside world sees harmony, but inside, it's a constant dance of roles, masks, and unspoken rules. Let me share with you the story of Anna. Her name has changed, but her experience reflects what so many survivors of narcissistic families have lived through. Anna grew up as the middle child in a household that looked, from the outside, like a picture of success. Her father was charming and respected in the community. Her mother was always impeccably put together, polite, and admired by neighbors. To anyone looking in, it seemed like the perfect family. But behind closed doors, the picture was different. From a young age, Anna felt the pressure to earn love rather than simply receive it. Her older brother was the golden child. He was praised endlessly for his achievements, held up as an example of what real success looked like. Her younger sister was the baby, the one who needed protection and constant attention. And Anna, she was the one caught in the middle, often unnoticed unless she made a mistake. When she did well in school, she received polite acknowledgement, but it never lasted. If she didn't meet expectations, she was compared to her brother. "Why can't you be more like him?" her parents would say. At times, her role shifted into the scapegoat, the one blamed for arguments, the one accused of ruining the mood simply because she expressed feelings that didn't align with the family's image. Family gatherings were the hardest. Anna remembers sitting at the dinner table where every word felt like a performance. If she spoke too much, she was told she was seeking attention. If she stayed too quiet, she was accused of being ungrateful or distant. There was no right balance. The most painful part was the love that seemed to come and go like a switch. One day, her mother would hug her tightly, calling her "my sweet girl." The next, her mother would refuse to look at her, cold and dismissive, leaving Anna desperate to understand what had changed. As Anna grew older, she began to see the cracks. Friends, families felt different, warmer, more predictable, more forgiving. She realized that in her home, love was never about her. It was about maintaining her parents' fragile image of themselves. The breaking point came in her early 20s, when she decided to move out. The announcement was met not with support, but with guilt and rage. "How could you leave us after everything we've done for you?" her parents demanded. They framed her independence as betrayal. Leaving was not easy. She doubted herself, wondered if she was cruel, if she was ungrateful. But with therapy and support, she began to understand. The love she had been chasing all her life was not true unconditional love. It was conditional, transactional, and bound to a system that had never allowed her to simply be herself. Today, Anna has built a new life. She still feels echoes of the old patterns, moments where she questions her worth or fears rejection, but she has learned to recognize those feelings as remnants of the past, not reflections of who she truly is. Her story is a reminder. Walking away from a narcissistic family system doesn't mean you re-abandoning love. It means you are choosing to seek the real version of it, steady, unconditional, and safe. To understand why families like Anna's feel so heavy, we need to step back and look at the psychology that drives a narcissistic family system. At the center is the narcissistic parentor. Sometimes, both parents, their core need isn't truly connection, but control and validation. They see the family less as a group of individuals with unique needs and more as extensions of themselves. Every child, every partner, becomes a mirror, and the reflections they want to see are always flattering, always perfect, always aligned with the image they want to project to the outside world. This is where the family roles often develop. You might recognize some of them. The golden child, the one who shines, who exists to make the parent look successful. This child is rewarded with praise and attention, but the pressure to stay perfect can be crushing. The scapegoat, the one who absorbs blame, anger, and shame. This child often becomes the truth teller, the one who resists the dysfunction, but in doing so, carries the weight of the family's unspoken pain. The invisible child, the one overlooked, ignored, or dismissed. They survive by staying quiet, by not needing too much, by disappearing into the background. These roles aren't always fixed. Sometimes they shift, depending on the narcissist's moods or needs. But the roles keep the system functioning in a way that protects the narcissistic parent as fragile. Psychologists often describe this system as enmeshed. Boundaries are blurred, and individuality is discouraged. The children aren't allowed to fully separate and form their own identities, because their value lies in serving the emotional needs of the parent. At the heart of it is a cycle of conditional love. Approval is granted when the parent feels admired, when their needs are met, but when those needs aren't fulfilled, love is withdrawn. This creates an atmosphere of uncertainty and hypervigilance. Every family member learns to anticipate moods, to walk on eggshells, to avoid triggering disapproval. This cycle can leave deep emotional imprints. Even long after leaving the family home, survivors often struggle with self-doubt, people-pleasing, or difficulty trusting relationships. It's not because they are weak, it's because they were trained, from a young age, to believe that love must be earned, not given freely. And yet, understanding the psychology behind it can be freeing. It helps survivors see that the dysfunction was never their fault. It was the system itself, built to revolve around one person's fragile ego, rather than the shared well-being of everyone in the family. In this light, Anna's decision to leave and anyone's choice to set boundaries is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of survival, and more than that, it's an act of reclaiming the right to live as an individual, not just as a reflection in someone else's mirror. To truly see the impact of a narcissistic family system, it helps to place it side by side with a healthier one. In a healthy family, love feels steady. Mistakes are seen as opportunities to learn, not as proof of failure. Individuality is encouraged. One child can love art, while another prefers science, and both are valued simply for being themselves. Boundaries are respected. Privacy is honored. The home is a place where you can breathe, where silence feels safe instead of threatening. In contrast, in a narcissistic family, love is conditional. Mistakes are magnified, often used as weapons in arguments. Individuality is threatening. Children are molded into roles that serve the parent's ego rather than celebrated for their uniqueness. Boundaries are blurred. Secrets may be demanded, emotions dismissed, and privacy invaded. Silence is rarely cites tension, waiting for the next wave of criticism or control. Publicly, the differences can be subtle. A narcissistic family often appears polished, charming, even enviable. They may project unity and perfection, while a healthy family might look ordinary, even messy, from the outside, but behind closed doors, the difference is profound. In a healthy family, children grow into adults who trust themselves, who know they are lovable as they are. In a narcissistic family, children grow up questioning their worth, doubting their feelings, and often carrying invisible scars. This contrast matters, because when you've only ever known dysfunction, it's hard to imagine anything different. You may think every family feels tense, or that every act of love comes with conditions. But once you see the difference, you begin to realize, it was never supposed to be that way. Healthy love is not earned by performance. It is not withdrawn to control. It doesn't pit siblings against each other, or demand silence in exchange for peace. Healthy love says, you are enough, just as you are. And that realization can be the first step toward healing, recognizing that what you longed for was not impossible, only absent in the system you grew up in. Take another slow breath in and let it out. We've journeyed together through the daily life of a narcissistic family, heard the story of someone who found their way out, explored the psychology behind the system, and seen the contrast with what healthy love looks like. If any of this felt familiar to you, know this: you are not alone. What you experienced was real, and it was not your fault. The confusion, the self-doubt, the longing for stability, these are natural responses to an unnatural system. And just as Anna found her path forward, so can you. Healing doesn't happen overnight, but it begins with understanding, with recognizing the patterns, and with choosing little by little to believe that you deserve something better. So as you move on from this video, carry this thought with you. You are worthy of love that doesn't waver, love that doesn't demand performance, love that simply stays. You've learned, you've reflected, and now you can rest knowing you are not alone.